What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today, we have got our Week 9 NFL game picks outright versus the spread, along with our locks of the week. So make sure to tune in. If you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. And let us hear it in the comment section. Do you agree, disagree, along with any other questions you guys might have? We will do our best to answer them all. But with that being said, let's get right into it. And really quickly, before getting into these breakdowns, I want to give a quick shout out to OddsJam once again, because it continues to be the place that I use for all my NFL betting research, and not only for the NFL, really any other sport out there as well, to compare lines, to look at all the different sports books, and just to guarantee you get the best odds to get the most bang for your buck. So definitely check them out. And not only that, but take a look at their betting tools, like their positive EV tool that shows you line discrepancies so you know you're getting the best odds, or their arbitrage tool so you get equal and opposite bets for a risk-free return. An awesome tool for whether you're a beginner or an expert bettor. Take advantage of that. I'll include the link in the description. So again, make sure to check them out. But with that being said, let's get into these game breakdowns. And we start with a Thursday night recap. Jets at the Colts. That was a game where the Colts were one of the locks of the week for us. They hit 45-30. They end up winning. We had the Colts on the money line. Got a little bit cute with the Jets on the spread. Unfortunately, Mike White gets hurt within the first 2 minutes, so it was a situation at quarterback afterwards that was unplanned. Does Mike White and the Jets potentially cover if he doesn't get hurt? Maybe, but again, tough situation. All in all, considering though we start out 1-1 on the week, so not too bad. Moving on to our Sunday games though, let's begin with the Minnesota Vikings at the Baltimore Ravens. The Vikings coming off a disappointing loss versus the Dallas Cowboys without Dak Prescott. They are 3-4. The Ravens 5-2 here. Coming off the bye week. They're still dealing with some injuries. Latavius Murray won't play in this game, at least not expected to. So, you're going to get probably a lot of Devonta Freeman, Le'Veon Bell sprinkled in, but then more importantly, Lamar Jackson doing his thing on the ground. Sammy Watkins potentially returning here, but Rashad Bateman has been all right in that role. The Vikings, if you ask me, I think they have some better weapons, in all honesty. It's Thielen, Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, obviously, Kirk Cousins. To me, the Vikings do have the weapons here. It's going to come down to Kirk Cousins versus Lamar Jackson, in my opinion. Can Kirk Cousins keep pace with the Baltimore Ravens? I think the Ravens have the edge defensively here. I do like the Ravens at home on the money line as well. Personally, I think they're just the better team. I think Lamar Jackson is harder to game plan for. He brings that extra factor into this game and gives the Ravens an edge offensively. The Vikings a little bit too inconsistent. So give me the Baltimore Ravens to win here. On the spread is where it's interesting. Baltimore is at -6. To me, it really just matters what version of the Minnesota Vikings we get. Is it going to be the version that throughout the majority of the season was in these very close games that could have gone either way? I think they still have that capability. And, I know it was a bad loss versus the Dallas Cowboys without Dak, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the Minnesota Vikings can cover that number. Ideally, maybe get them to +7.5, something like that, and then go with them on the spread that way. But I definitely feel a lot more confident with the Ravens just outright. Moving on, we have got the New England Patriots at the Carolina Panthers. Both these teams 4-4. Patriots beating the LA Chargers. Very, very nice win on their end. The Panthers beating the beat-up Atlanta Falcons 4-4 on their end as well. This is a home game for them. Sam Darnold, questionable. Is he going to play? Won't he play? Still kind of up in the air. Same situation with Christian McCaffrey, designated to return from IR, but does he play? Reports are if he does, it's going to be very limited. So not really putting too much weight in Christian McCaffrey's presence there. I think it's going to be, another week until he's fully involved. Here, the difference maker will be Sam Darnold. If Sam Darnold plays, I think that the Panthers can keep this game close, potentially get an upset because, well, in fact, they were at plus 3.5 here, and I just don't see this game being all that high scoring. I think that the Patriots can absolutely win, but it's going to be a situation where it's close and it's a grind out battle and it's lower scoring. So for that reason, I think that the Panthers are a good bet on the spread if putting the condition Sam Darnold plays. Again, kind of a little bit too early to 100% say whether he does or doesn't. So definitely keep track on his status leading up to the game because, spoiler, PJ Walker does not have it. I'd prefer Sam Darnold over him, even though he has had his fair share of issues. But with that being said, I like the Patriots outright on the spread. I'll go with the Panthers if Darnold plays, which, again, right now, a big if. Moving on, we have got the Cleveland Browns at the Cincinnati Bengals. The Browns losing this last week to the Steelers, 4-4. That was a game that we called. We said, look, they're too banged up. They're going up against a good defense. Go with the Steelers. That hits the Bengals 5-3. Hand up. We did not predict their loss. They lost to the New York Jets, but I assume that we were in the majority on that one. The big news here is that obviously Odell Beckham's not going to be a part of the Browns anymore. But to me, that really isn't all that big of a factor here. To me, the big factor and what I've been saying for a while now is the fact that Baker Mayfield is playing with a torn up shoulder, and that's obviously preventing him from doing what he wants to do through the air. He's less than 100%, clearly. And for that reason, I think you have to give the edge to the Bengals. I mean, on the spread, they are favored, -2.5. I think that's the way it should be. Obviously, it was a bad loss to the Jets, but offensively, they have it going. They've kind of hit their stride, and I think the Bengals can win this game. I like what they have offensively more so than the Browns. Sure, the Browns have Nick Chubb, a good offensive line, but that's only going to get you so far. Baker Mayfield has to do something with his arm, and right now, simply put, he is compromised. And as good as this Browns defense can be, the Bengals have the weapons. You can only contain some offenses for so long, and right now, with guys like Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Mixon, Bengals are kind of in that territory. I like the Bengals to win this game. That 2.5 number, not all that high, so I'm going to ride with the Bengals outright and on the spread. Moving on, we have got the Dallas Cowboys hosting the Denver Broncos. Broncos 4-4 after beating Washington last week in a game that was ugly, low scoring like we predicted. The Cowboys 6-1. Huge win for them, beating the Vikings without Dak Prescott. Now he is expected to return in this game. I like the Cowboys here. They will be without Tyron Smith on the offensive line. That is a big loss, obviously, in Dak Prescott's first game back. But, look, the Denver Broncos, they lost a big piece too via trade in Von Miller, sending him to the LA Rams. So they're going to be, not quite as imposing on that defense. I like the Dallas Cowboys here, even if Von Miller was still on the Broncos. I think simply put, the Broncos cannot keep up with the Dallas Cowboys offensively. And for that reason, I'm going to ride with the Cowboys. With Dak Prescott now back, that offense is completely on another level. It's worth, monitoring here the health of guys like CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper. They were kind of questionable throughout the week. To me, the biggest question here is what do you do on the spread? The Cowboys are heavy favorites at -9.5. And it's a situation where I could see, the Broncos potentially covering late, but the Cowboys defense has been better this year, and Teddy Bridgewater isn't meant for, these marathon type games. So I'm going to go out again on a limb here and go with the Dallas Cowboys covering on the spread there. Afterwards, moving on, we've got the Buffalo Bills versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Bills are 5-2, facing the Jaguars 1-6, who got beat down by the Seattle Seahawks, and right now have to go into the buzzsaw that is the Buffalo Bills. rested, and I think it's a situation where you see why they have the biggest spread on the week. The Jaguars at plus 14.5. I'm going to be taking the Buffalo Bills here outright. I think that's a pretty safe bet. Offensively, Josh Allen playing at a great level. Maybe it took him a little while, but he's in form right now. The Jaguars defensively, they don't scare me one bit. Even with Cole Beasley potentially being unavailable for the Buffalo Bills. Trevor Lawrence, he's had ups and downs as a rookie. The Jaguars offensively, James Robinson is questionable in this game right now. And to me, that is a huge, huge loss. I'd say that he probably doesn't play. So it's going to be Carlos Hyde. And no knock against Carlos Hyde, but he's no James Robinson. And then offensively, other than Marvin Jones, this offense in terms of pass catchers has been pretty disappointing. So I got to go with the Buffalo Bills here. Again, the big question is, do they cover? Ideally, I would tease that spread to like plus 10 for the Jacksonville Jaguars, then go with the Bills. But if you force my hand, I'll go with the Bills on the spread as well at that 14.5 number. I just think the Jaguars defensively, they are so inept, and without James Robinson, that's going to be a big blow. So I'm going to go with the Bills tentatively on the spread there as well. Then moving on, we've got the Houston Texans at the Miami Dolphins. Big game here because we've got the return of Tyrod Taylor. So what's this going to do for the Houston offense? Well, I think most importantly, it's going to legitimize, some of those wide receivers, namely Brandon Cooks, and return some scoring upside to this offense. To be fair, the Dolphins are also 1-7, a battle of two 1-7 teams. They have underachieved big time. It's a situation where both these teams probably done for the 2021 season. And right now, you got to look forward to the future. Tyrod Taylor, even though he is returning here, I still think that the Dolphins have the better offensive group. I think they're slightly better defensively, not by much. I'll go Tua over Tyrod Taylor. Again, you're going to be without Devontae Parker, without Will Fuller, but you've got Jalen Waddle, you've got Mike Gesicki, maybe throw in some Myles Gaskin in there as well. Again, it's not an offense that screams elite or anything like that, but I think it's going to be a close back and forth game. I could see the Texans kind of sneaking in there, making this closer than it should be. I'm going to take the Dolphins outright, but on the spread, as crazy as it sounds, the Dolphins are at minus 5.5. Seems like kind of a big number. Dolphins haven't really been, blowing out any teams. To be fair, they only have one win. So with that being the case, I'm actually going to go with the Houston Texans on the spread, the return of Tyrod Taylor. I think it's a situation where, again, it's going to return some firepower to this offense. We'll see. And the Houston Texans can kind of hang in there, but ultimately the Dolphins win. Next up, we've got the Atlanta Falcons at the New Orleans Saints. Divisional clash here. Falcons 3-4 coming off the loss to the Carolina Panthers. The Saints 5-2, big time win versus the Bucs. They've had the Bucs number in the regular season while Brady has been there, but in a big but at that, Jameis Winston done for the year. So a lot of us thought that it would be Taysom Hill under center, but no, it will be Trevor Siemian, even though Hill had been cleared from the concussion protocol. And apparently the Saints saw something that they liked from Siemian in that win versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Personally, I'm not sold. I think Siemian has been a journeyman, a backup. I'd prefer Taysom Hill here. I think what he can do with his legs will be enough of an X factor versus the Atlanta Falcons. Yes, right now the Saints defense is, pretty good, and I think that's going to be the main thing that potentially allows them to win this game. But honestly, if it's not for the Saints defense, I have zero faith, even more so in the Saints offense without Jameis Winston. It's going to have to, even to a larger degree, go through Alvin Kamara. We got the news that Michael Thomas will not be returning this season. So, that wide receiver group is absolutely atrocious. The Falcons on the other side, they're going to be without Calvin Ridley for a while. It's a tough situation. So what do you do with that wide receiver core? It's like, okay, Kyle Pitts at the tight end position, you put a double team on him, and then where do you go? It's going to have to be Cordero Patterson, Russell Gage, stuff like that. So I'm not too excited about this. Honestly, I think the Falcons can win this game. I think they can make it ugly. I just have more faith in Matt Ryan than I do Trevor Siemian, and maybe I shouldn't, especially since this game is New Orleans and the defense can get after Matt Ryan. The way that I would play this game here, ideally, I would just take the Falcons on the spread because I don't have faith in the Saints blowing out the Falcons, and the number is kind of high, -6 in favor of the New Orleans Saints. I think on the money line outright, it could go either way. I could see the Saints winning. I could see the Falcons winning. I'll give the slight edge to the Falcons. I think they're a little bit healthier, even though they have their fair share of issues. But again, probably a game that ideally I'd be staying away from on the money line, ideally just looking at the spread. Afterwards, we go to the Las Vegas Raiders at the New York Giants. The Raiders 5-2, the Giants 2-6. Giants continue to just be beat up, losing to the Kansas City Chiefs. To be fair, that was a game that was a lot closer than anticipated, but man, they've got injuries. Sterling Shepard getting banged up again in that game. Saquon Barkley still out. Still no timetable with that ankle issue. It's a bad situation at this point in time. The Raiders, I think they can capitalize and beat the Giants here, even if it's on the road, even with some of the issues they have had, this week with some distractions, obviously off the field issues with Henry Ruggs, no longer part of the team because of what happened this week. So it's going to be Hunter Renfrow. It's going to be Bryan Edwards. It's going to be Darren Waller. Even with that, I think that the Raiders can still beat the New York Giants. I'm going with the Raiders here to win this game. The Giants are at +3.5. To me, that number isn't all that big. They're banged up. That continues to be the theme for them. The offensive line continues to be an issue. Give me the Raiders here outright and on the spread. Afterwards, we've got the Chargers at the Eagles. The Chargers 4-3 after barely losing to the New England Patriots, while the Eagles 3-5 after absolutely crushing the Detroit Lions. But that was probably going to be one of their easier games of the season. Now they are at home, surprisingly, only +1.5. This game is basically a pick'em. I think some people here, might be panicking a little bit with, the recent losing streak that the Chargers have had. And then maybe a little bit prisoner of the moment of what the Eagles did versus the Detroit Lions. But again, I would say that was the Detroit Lions. I think this Chargers defense in the secondary is pretty good. Yes, they can be had versus the run, but the Eagles right now, last week to me was an aberration. You're not going to see Boston Scott and Jordan Howard each getting 2 touchdowns every single week while Miles Sanders is out. So I would temper my expectations from that regard. I think the Chargers can bounce back here. I'm not saying it's not going to be close. Again, the Chargers have kind of gotten back to that situation of playing these close games that could go either way. But when the spread is +1.5, it's basically a pick'em. So I feel like the Chargers outright, which I do. I think they're more consistent offensively. I'd go Justin Herbert over Jalen Hurts at this point in time. I like their defense more so. But basically, if you like them outright, you should also be picking them on the spread when the number is only +1.5 for the Eagles. So I'm going Chargers outright and on the spread. Then looking at the Arizona Cardinals at the San Francisco 49ers, this is a big-time game that has shifted in a large way on the spread. Normally, Cardinals 7-1, 49ers 3-4. You'd say, okay, Cardinals even coming off their first loss of the season versus the Packers, and even with the 49ers beating the Chicago Bears, Cardinals still probably be favorites. But the news comes out that Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins likely won't play in this game. Missed practice all week. The anticipation throughout the week was that at least Kyler Murray would play, but now with them both potentially missing this game, I want nothing to do with the Cardinals here. Yes, it's an NFC West clash, but without Kyler Murray and without DeAndre Hopkins, I don't trust this Arizona offense. And the 49ers potentially getting George Kittle back as well. Elijah Mitchell a little bit banged up, but Jeff Wilson potentially returning. Deebo Samuel is also probably going to be 50-50 here. So there's a lot of injuries is the takeaway. But to me, the 49ers are healthier at the more important position. That is the quarterback position. And without Kyler Murray, I think the Arizona Cardinals, you could argue, are going to be one of the worse off teams in the NFL. So give me the San Francisco 49ers. Maybe it's a trap, with this being a divisional clash. If Kyler Murray does play, I would go with the Cardinals for what it's worth if he somehow gets on the right side of questionable. But right now, the 49ers are favored. They're favored at -2.5, and it makes all the sense in the world. Again, not that huge of a number. I know what I've said before about NFC West clashes, but to me, that only holds in situations where your starting quarterback is available. That's not the case here, presumably, for the Cardinals. So give me the San Francisco 49ers outright and on the spread. Then moving on, we've got the Green Bay Packers at the Kansas City Chiefs. Another game that has been highly impacted on the spread throughout the week because of one-star quarterback not being available. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers on the COVID list, so it will finally be Jordan Love for the Green Bay Packers. Are we going to see why the Packers drafted him in the first round a year ago? It's a fair question. I think it's going to be a tough outing here versus the Kansas City Chiefs. I really do. I realize the Chiefs have been absolutely atrocious defensively. Offensively, they've kind of struggled. But the Packers defense, not all that great. Offensively, yes, they can run the football. Devontae Adams is going to be back from his COVID designation last week. But without Aaron Rodgers is what makes this ship go right, folks. And I don't think that they're going to be able to simply just run the ball, and keep pace with the Kansas City Chiefs that way. The secondary for the Packers can be exposed. I like Patrick Mahomes here and the Kansas City Chiefs. Yes, it's not, the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes of a year and a half ago, but still, to me, without Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love simply, in my opinion, hasn't really showed anything so far. Granted, he hasn't really been given any chances, but the fact that the Packers were supposedly shopping him at some points during the offseason doesn't really speak great volumes about him. So I'm just hesitant here. I think the Chiefs defense can actually look decent versus Jordan Love. I like the Kansas City Chiefs here outright. It'd be a different story if Rodgers was playing, but he's not. On the spread, Chiefs at -7. Again, even with the issues they've had defensively, I don't have the faith that seemingly others do in Jordan Love. So give me the Kansas City Chiefs at home to cover that spread. If they go up, I don't think the Packers can keep pace with them. So I like the Chiefs on the spread as well. Then we've got the Titans at the Rams. Titans 6-2, huge win versus the Indianapolis Colts in overtime. Back and forth thriller of a game, but it came with a cost. Derrick Henry injured, out 6 to 10 weeks. We'll see if he, comes back sooner, what the situation is, but he's going to be out here for the foreseeable future. And boy, oh boy, did you need him versus the LA Rams, who are 7-1. They continue to roll, continue to just take out opponents, beating the Texans last week. And now they add Von Miller. Man, the hell with draft picks. The LA Rams are all in. And without Derrick Henry, it's a fair question to ask, what are the Titans going to do offensively? Julio Jones has been, really non-serviceable for the majority of the season because, he's been injured. A.J. Brown, okay, he's going to get a lot of targets, but this offense goes through the rushing attack. And yes, you added Adrian Peterson, you've got McNichols, but none of those guys are Derrick Henry. I think this could be a long day for Ryan Tannehill and the Tennessee Titans. And honestly, I'm going with the LA Rams here. The number is a little bit big at -7, considering that, the Titans are 6-2, but without Derrick Henry, I am worried here. I don't think they're going to be able to just duplicate his production. And I think Ryan Tannehill is going to have to do pretty much all of this with his arm. Too much pressure on him. A.J. Brown, you lock him up. Who else do the Titans have? Give me the LA Rams here. The Titans defense, not all that great either. So I'll take the Rams outright on the spread. Not quite as confident, but give me the Rams on the spread there at that -7 number as well. And then finally, Monday Night Football, we've got the Chicago Bears at the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Bears 3-5 coming off one of their more competitive games, more impressive games offensively, even though it wasn't a loss versus the San Francisco 49ers, while the Pittsburgh Steelers 4-3 just beat the Cleveland Browns. And to me, this game is, kind of intriguing because seemingly now that Justin Fields had one good game versus, a suspect defense, people are all of a sudden saying the Bears are back, watch out. I don't agree with that. I think that this is going to be shades of the Bears versus the Tampa Bay Bucks, where the Bears put up 3 points. The Steelers' defense is still good, and the Bears just, they don't show up versus actual good teams, and especially versus good defenses. Matt Nagy is going to be back. What does that do here for the play calling? I don't like Justin Fields or really any of these offensive weapons here versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think Pittsburgh, even though they have some issues, and again, Big Ben isn't what he was before, offensively, I have so much more faith in them with Deontay Johnson, with Najee Harris, with Chase Claypool, and even Big Ben. I like the Pittsburgh Steelers here a lot. I think this could potentially turn to a blowout. The Bears struggle to put up double-digit points. If it's a 3-4 point type of game, that would be surprising to me. I think this game would probably be lower scoring than higher scoring, but even with that, I could see the Steelers winning like 20-7, 20-10, something like that. So in that case, the Steelers -6 on the spread, I will take them there as well. I like them outright and on the spread. But with that, we wrap up our pick'ems. Now looking at our locks of the week. Let's start with the Buffalo Bills versus the Jaguars. Simply put, give me the Bills. I think the Jaguars right now are just a big-time mess. And, it's going to be pretty often where we pick the opposing team versus them, especially when it's somebody like the Buffalo Bills. Panthers, Patriots, if Sam Darnold doesn't play, give me the Patriots there. That's a quick stipulation on that end. Then we have got, moving down, looking at the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Green Bay Packers. No Aaron Rodgers. No chance for the Green Bay Packers, in my opinion. Give me the Kansas City Chiefs there as a lock. Rams, Titans, could be closer than people expect, but without Derrick Henry, I have faith in the LA Rams to get this one done. Even with Henry, I'd be picking the Rams. And then finally, Bears, Steelers. Give me the Steelers. The Bears aren't meant to hang with teams that have very good defenses, which the Steelers do. So I like Pittsburgh in that game. But with that, we wrap up our Week 9 NFL game picks, outright versus the spread, along with our locks of the week. And as always, let us hear it in the comment section. Did you agree, disagree, along with any other questions you guys might have? We will do our best to answer them all. If you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. But in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.